So I watch a lot of Russian propaganda, and I do for a reason. I want to know what the Russians are saying and why they're trying to make the case that they're making. It's very important to know the other side and understand them as fully as possible. Here, Anton Gerashenko points out that Russian propagandist Martin suggests that Russians buy apartments in occupied Donetsk. They're cheaper than Moscow. That's his argument here. And you're going to see another video from United 24 with Russians talking about buy these apartments in Mariupol, fix them up, make your profit, and that sort of thing. And we're just got to understand and try to get into the mindset of Russians who are saying this. Okay, let's see what Martin had to say, and then we'll go to the second video in just a moment. I'll probably make a conclusion. The answer to the question, why do we have bad demographics? Somebody says because the mortgage here is now 22%, because apartments here cost a heck of a lot of money. Okay, so when you're talking about bad demographics, let's go first back to what are we talking about? The population has shrunk significantly in Russia. Russia is now in a population crisis, and they understand it to the degree that they're now trying to incentivize women to get pregnant because they realize that. So in 1991, 92, 93, the population stopped making babies at the same rate. There was so much turmoil, and then it kind of expanded back out. But then you're also losing soldiers now, and you're losing, what, 500,000? Well, not 500,000 total, hundreds of thousands, low hundreds of thousands in people, and then another million that have fled abroad because of mobilization. So they have a real population issue. Okay, no problem. There are inexpensive apartments in Donetsk. Excellent apartments are for sale, up to 100,000 rubles per square meter. I'm not kidding at all. And in general, there are plenty of places in Russia beside Moscow. Now, notice he's saying that Donetsk is part of Russia. That's part of the way he's assuming things. And he's saying, yeah, go there. So part of this is to populate the Donetsk with actual Russians rather than Ukrainians. That's part of the strategy. But part of it is also to say, go there and repopulate, make babies, make little Russians. Now, it's not because they're pro-life in any sense that, say, an American like me would be talking about being pro-life. Life is beautiful. I have lots of children, and I think it's a great thing to have kids. That's wonderful. They're talking about it for a very different reason, because they need to populate so they have 20 years from now enough soldiers for their army. Okay, let's look at the next video. This is from United 24. Russians are promoting how great it is to buy apartments in occupied and destroyed Mariupol. Now, part of Mariupol has been being rebuilt, and it's actually being rebuilt nicely. Other parts are not so rebuilt. Okay, here's what we see. Macabre real estate. Russians are now selling destroyed apartments in a temporarily occupied Mariupol. How to buy an apartment in Mariupol? It's more profitable to invest in destruction and then sell it at a higher price when it's restored. Come on in, a large living room. Yes, the apartment requires major renovation. These macabre videos, they showcase as the great investment promising a rise in value. These buildings have survived more than one war, and as you can see, they have been preserved. Bedroom, yes, the apartment requires investment. After the hostilities, the house was very damaged. You need to look not at the consequences that this apartment has experienced, but at the future. The documents are in order, and all documents are being re-registered in the Russian register from Ukrainian documents to Russian ones. Time is not a problem. This apartment is worth it. The apartment costs $5 million. Will you give me a discount? For the most part, people from large parts of Russia can afford an apartment in Mariupol. Well, one that looks like this, I can believe that they can afford it. And so it's interesting that they're selling it like this and selling it as if it's part of Russia and selling it, talking about how, you're going to make this killing on the investment. And yeah, there's some damage you got to deal with. There's a lot of damage to deal with. And not thinking that maybe one day that apartment might be being taken back. It might be in Ukrainian crosshairs yet again. Previously, people lived here, took care of everything. These thickets were not there. Everything was cleaned and well groomed. The house can no longer be restored. Therefore, we just sell such options just a plot. It's simply easier to demolish and build a new one here. The boiler has already been taken out, but the toilet is missing. Okay, so it's really interesting to see what's going on here. It's easy to make a profit if you start with seized goods that somebody else owned instead of something that's worth $100,000. You say, hey, I got this for free. It's damaged, but you can fix it up and then it's worth something. But again, what happens when the Ukrainians come back from Mariupol? They're writing this because they are currently keeping records of ownerless housing so as not to be hacked. Life is getting better. Every cloud has a silver lining. Unofficial reports cite that 100,000 people have been killed in Mariupol by Russia. That's absolutely mind-numbingly bad. And yeah, and so they've been displaced, they've lost their housing, and the Russians are just essentially stealing it. Now, why are they stealing it? Like, first, this is what the Ukrainians have experienced under Russian occupation, under Russian restoration. They have destroyed, and this is what Donetsk and Donetsk looks like. It's not too far. And they're talking about going to Donetsk. This is what Donetsk looks like. And they destroyed it. But more to the point, why did the Russians need to take that real estate? Like, if you look at Russia, this is a great question this person put out. Why does Russia want more territory when they have all this empty space? Are they stupid? Well, no, they're not stupid. They might be greedy, but they're not stupid. So if you look at this, you see the more yellow it is, the less population per kilometer squared. The more green or then actually blue it is, the greater the density of the population per kilometer square. So on the western side of the country, over especially Moscow, St. Petersburg, down near Ukraine, it's very heavily populated. And then when you get to here all the way over, not a lot of population. They have plenty of places to go. But Martin is encouraging people to go to Donetsk, and there's a reason for that. Now, what's the reason that he would encourage Russians to occupy, and I'm using that term intentionally, to occupy Donetsk? This is what the Russians do. They take over land and then they send in Russians to occupy it. This is the exact same thing that they did with Crimea 10 years ago. More Russians now live there than they did 10 years ago, and that was intentional. Okay, my friends, that's all that I have for you. I hope that helps you understand what's going on or why he's making the claim that he's making here. I'm curious about your thoughts. Please put those in the comments below. I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes. When you hit like, it really helps a video like this to spread. I thank you for the subscribes. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for being a member or being a patron. And thank you more than anything for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.